Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about real-time data, how to manage it, how to optimize it. We'll also get into the mistakes the companies make with data and how to fix them. To discuss that, I'm joined by a major industry expert. With me is Chet Kapoor, Chief Executive Officer of DataStax. Chet, absolutely thrilled to have you with us today on this Friday.
James, thank you very much for having me. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So let's do a little level set, a sort of a definition of terms to start. And the term real-time data, what do we actually mean by that? And what's wrong with that good old-fashioned static, slow data that we've been using all these years? Please explain.
It's a great way to get started. So if you look at what enterprises do today, right? They get insights by gathering, storing, and then analyzing data. But what do people really want? They want data to be activated in real time to drive actions, right? So winning enterprises, we found, take data, they process it, and they use it to drive an instantaneous experience to a customer, right? I mean, because that's what we want. Think about your and my life, right? What do we want? We don't want a spinning wheel. We want to, we're doing something, and right in the middle of it, if there's a recommendation, we want to either take it or ignore it.
We live our lives right now.
So it's all about doing it, just like we were talking before the podcast started, right? We are living for the moment. We want to be present. So real-time data is all about powering user experiences, delivering immediate intelligence, and then fueling AI and ML because of that, right? And I think, so the next question then becomes, people have been talking about real-time a lot, right? Why now? Right?
Good question. Why not? Well, part of that answer is because we have the technology for why now.
Absolutely. We have the tech now because it was not there before, right? I mean, you couldn't provide data at scale before. You couldn't do this in real time. Developers didn't know how to do it through APIs in an easy way. It was meant for the PhDs from Carnegie Mellon, right? So everything has come together really well from a tech point of view. Enterprises, by the way, within the enterprise expect it. You talk to the business executive, they're like, I want this data now. I need to make a decision, a business decision today. Don't tell me you're going to put it in a warehouse or a lake or a pond and give it to me the next day.
Right, a data pond. I haven't quite heard of that one, but I like the idea, a data pond.
I know.
We can't get to your data because it's in the pond now, but let's make it real time.
I know. And my take is, you want a data river. You just want it to flow, right? You want data to flow because you don't want constraints. And I've always thought about data as like water, right? It should be everywhere, right? You should be able to consume it in every way or form. But the thing that's driving real time the most is you and me. Right? Customers expect it, right? It doesn't matter whether I am, checking whether I'm ordering coffee from Starbucks, right? If you just think about it, or I'm, doing iPhone launch with Verizon, or whether I'm tracking my package on FedEx. I want that data now. I don't actually care.
But it seems like here's one of the problems is that we love data, we need data, but data is in some ways cumbersome, more cumbersome than water, in that it needs to be prepped. We have to run it through the ETL process. Maybe it's structured or unstructured. It's like data is where the information lays, but sometimes data is not easy for us to deal with.
You're absolutely correct. And guess what? We as technologists that build products have to make it a lot easier. I was blown away, right? Having come from the middleware space, right? Having been in the distributed world for a long time, coming into the database space, there's a database for every use case in the world. There's one to go to the bathroom, right? I mean, it's extremely fragmented, and we need to make it easier for everybody, because at the end of the day, the customer wants you to analyze and process it in real time. So, going off and saying there's a convergence between data at rest, i.e. databases, and data in motion, i.e. streaming. I'm going to keep going back to the customer. As a customer, don't care, right? All I want is give me the information I need and make a recommendation in real time. And so I think, like I said earlier, the tech stack is coming together really, really well. Are we there all the way? No, we're not, but we're well on our way, which is why I think the time is now. Now, there is a spot here, James, just to be clear, there is a spot here for doing batch, where you're doing the ETL stuff and you're taking historical information and processing all in real time. There's a real use case for that. And that should happen. But as customers, as enterprises, we demand that this needs to happen in real time.
All right, so say there's a company out there and they want to be doing more with real-time data. What advice would you give them? First of all, what mistakes are they likely making now, and how do they fix those mistakes? Real question is, how do they optimize their use of real-time data?
So there's always two parts to it, right? And I'm going to start with, because a lot of people are on this journey and there are different parts of the journey. So let me extract out. Everybody's on a digital transformation journey. Right. And there are three parts to digital transformation journey. It started with mobile. Let's be very clear. It's the iPhone that started the process, and everybody wanted to do something on this phone, right? So that was the first one. The second one was cloud, right? You needed to make sure that you could consume all this stuff really quickly. But the third one is data. And this is the last leg. Now, interestingly enough, none of the first two journeys are done, right? They're all happening in parallel, right? But the first two are further ahead. So a lot of companies are starting to get on this journey. And it comes down to a fundamental thing that, James, I've been thinking about, right? And spending a lot of time with CIOs and architects and developers. Do you have people in your company that like to build a service? Or do you have people in a company who want to consume a service? Because the world is gone very much to people who want to consume a service. And so if you do not have that, if you don't have that cultural element in there, you are not going to succeed. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people are making. You know, you can talk about cloud, you can talk about data, but this is not your father's or your old data, right? This is not, it's a different world out there. Because real-time stuff is brand new. So there's a mind shift. It's part of a bigger transformation that's happening, but there's a mind shift that people have to pay attention to. So that's where I think fundamentally people have to like shift and think about it differently and go from there. So what should they do correctly? Right. How should they approach this problem?
What's the real practical fix?
So I think an ideal data strategy has two things, right? There's a technology part and there's a people and process part, right? I always start by saying, because we're technologists, we're in the product business, I always start by saying the tech is actually the easy part, because we see thousands of use cases and we do a ton of processing of all kinds of data. So we'll make it really easy for you by encapsulating all of it into a product so you can go off and use it. So the first thing is the tech, right? It's about delivering an open data stack, right? Not just a database. It's not just about APIs. It's not just about cloud-first technology. It's not about it being open source. It is about bringing everything together, right? It's about delivering an open data stack that developers can use to deliver real-time applications. So you have to leverage open source. You have to give developers the right tools. But the last thing really important is you have to abstract out and not think like the past and bring together database and streaming technologies that they probably have them scattered everywhere. So that's the tech part, right? And we have a product and many others have the product and things like that. But in this day and age, if you're not being developer friendly, if you're not doing open source, and if you're not converging into a unified open source based stack, there's something wrong.
All right, if I summarize that, it's about interoperability. It's about tearing down the borders and tearing down the silos to make sure everything can flow properly between it all. I want to take a chance to look at the future and your sense of where we're going in the future. But before we do that, also want to give you a chance to talk about DataStax. What matters about DataStax? Why would a company choose DataStax? You can hawk your products here, Chet. Here you go, please. I'll get 30 seconds of sales. Why not?
It's really simple, James. So and especially now, right? If you think about it, right, June 24th.
Sure.
There are ups and downs in the market, and I'll say two things. We've always been in the principled growth business part.
Sure.
Right. A lot of people have forgotten over the last 2 years that the principled and the business part has been forgotten. It's all about growth.
Yeah.
Right. So
right.
And the second part of that is I always talk about our things in simple ways, right? It is about the developer and the enterprise. So we are in the business of building products that developers love, that change the trajectory of the enterprises that they work for. We remind ourselves of that every day, right? That is what we love doing. Markets come, markets go, recessions come, recessions go. But if you build products that developers love, that change the trajectory of the enterprises they work for, you're home free. right? That is absolutely what we do. So our mission is simple: to serve the real-time application with an open data stack that just works. So let me just talk about three concepts. We've talked about real-time quite a bit. We've talked about the open data stack, and we've talked about the just works part, right? The just works part has developer productivity, it has availability, reliability, everything that people just wanted to work. This just works, right?
Definitely, it works really well.
And my point is, there's so much complexity, right? As an old next guy, Mark and this and that, it's all there, right? But my point is, it just works. And that is our goal. So 5 strategic principles. We focus on high growth apps. We care deeply about unit economics, right? And we want to be at least 2 to 4x more aggressive on unit economics than our competitors. We focus on limitless stacks. We have a limitless one where you can actually use AWS, you can use Microsoft. Intercloud, it just kind of works. Everything has to be open source. And the last thing is, everything is cloud first. Even for our self-managed customers, everything has to be cloud first. So those 5, we have the option to have a product that developers love. Our Astra cloud business is growing extremely quickly. We're in the Apache Cassandra and Apache Pulsar communities, and vibrant communities that we participate in. We have 800 customers, right? And they're all really, really happy with us. We spend a lot of time with them. So it's all good and it works really, really well. So really, really happy about it. I can talk about DataStax for months, but I'll stop right there, right?
All right, that's good. No, we get that's an interesting picture. All right, so we don't have a ton of time left, but I'd love to get your sense of, the future's coming, faster than we know. And what do you see in the future in terms of real-time data? Say we're in the year, 2025, 2026. What is real-time data going to look like then?
So I'm gonna step back, James, for a second and finish the technology and the people and process part, because I think it's really important. I really think, as I talk to customers, the tech is good for developers, but the people and process stuff is really important, right? And I think I'll go through it very quickly, but in the people and process side, you have to focus on 4 things. Number 1, you have to create a data culture, right? You have to use data everywhere. The second thing is you have to adopt an iterative mindset. You won't get it right the first time, but really quickly keep moving through it.
Right.
The third thing is you have to have an enterprise-wide data ops initiative, right? That means everybody needs to look at the same data. Because what you cannot say is, oh, that's different data, and this is different data. It cannot be silos. But the fourth one is the hardest part. You have to organize around what we call cross-functional data squads or pods. These are teams of business folks, data architects, engineers, and app developers all coming together and thinking about data and making the data available to change real-time applications. A lot of people think this is just technology. And one of the things that I spend a lot of time talking to customers about is it's a lot more than that, right? It's people and processes as you go forward. So now to answer your question, what does the future look like?
Yes, please.
I think there are 2 vectors from our point of view, right? One is the digital transformation journey will continue. They will do all 3 of those. It'll go on for a while. So let's talk about the data part of that.
Right.
It has to become simpler. It's too hard right now, right? There's
it's hard. It's very complicated.
It's like like I said, there's a database for every use case. Want to go to the bathroom, want to do this, want to do that. That has to get simplified. So I think of the data world in 3 parts. You have to simplify access for developers. That's one. You have to really make it simple. It doesn't matter what API they use, but just make it available as APIs. The second thing is data in motion, data in rest has to be completely hidden from everything else. There may be some physics problems that we need to solve, but let that be completely abstracted from what the developer wants to do. And then there's third piece, which is how we store it in Object Store and others. We think there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen on that side. So there's a disruption coming in the database market. There's a disruption coming in the streaming and the database market together. And there's a disruption coming in the API space in all 3 layers. So that's one. But the second thing is we absolutely believe that the cultural elements of what a data-driven world will look like will change one fundamental thing. Knowledge workers will become creative workers.
Aha.
That is going to be massive. And by the way, notice I said data-driven and I didn't say AI and ML. Obviously AI and ML, right? Systems are going to get smarter and things like that. And we have many different concepts that we're using, but we're starting to innovate a lot with awesome universities like UC San Diego. We're spending a lot of time with Harvard Business School on this, with a bunch of our customers, and talking about how does this autonomous world look like, right? You've gone from automation, right? Knowledge workers doing work. How do they become creative workers? Because systems will start doing anything that's repeatable, systems will start doing them, right? So how do they become creative workers over a period of time? And we're pumped about that future.
I like that. I believe in that. It's almost like it means that knowledge workers add more overall value to the workplace, which makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
I hope that comes true.
No, we are the best way to think about the future is to define it, right? And so we're in the process of doing that, and we're spending a lot of our energy in making that happen. This is, like you said, it was a 2025 frame, right? So it's not a 2022 frame, but we think the pieces are coming together rather well to get there.
That's cool. Chet, thanks so much for talking with us today. It was fascinating, and please come back and talk with us again sometime.
I look forward to it, James. Thank you very much.